What's up, guys? It's Lizzie, Jane, and you guys are tuning in to such a special podcast episode. My favorite girl, SIPPY, is returning to the podcast today, and we are talking about her debut album, Scars in Stereo. It has been out for almost 1 week now. The album is just phenomenal. I was so selfish during this conversation, and before we started recording, I literally was like, the intro made me cry. And if you haven't listened to her album yet, this is your sign. SIPPY absolutely killed this album, from the visual representation to what it personally means to her. And it is a totally new era for the SIPPY project. We talk about everything regarding the album, the collaborations, the vocalist, the writing process, her personal mental mindset, and lots of fun little tidbits and Easter eggs in regards to Scars in Stereo. So let's hop into the conversation. Make sure that you are tuning into my show Monday through Saturday on Insomniac Radio's channel Impact and the XX Transmission, where I sit down with some of the largest and rising names in bass music, drum and bass, trap, and hard dance every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Pacific time and 7 p.m. Eastern time. I'm so excited for you guys to listen to this. There's so much to learn. I absolutely love talking with SIPPY. She's such a well-versed, intelligent woman who is such an inspiration to so many people within the dance music scene and so on and so forth. Her fans love her. She really just goes all in on this conversation. This is Lizzie Jane, and you're tuning into my podcast where music meets conversation with special guest SIPPY.
SIPPY.
Yes. Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks.
Welcome back, I should say.
Oh, yeah.
I know.
Last time I was in Australia over
Yep.
Zoom. Was it Australia? Yeah. I think
Yes,
so.
you were like my third or fourth guest.
Yeah, I was
we
in
were in the
lockdown.
pandemic.
Yes. And I was literally, yeah. Those were, I'm sure I looked very happy,
Super happy.
but it was, am I
It's
allowed
crazy.
to use expletives or no?
You are allowed.
Yeah, it
to.
was fucked.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
It's
shit,
fucked.
but I'm fucked. Okay, whatever.
No, it's perfect. And this is the time and the place. And I literally was thinking about our conversation when we were in our respective homes. Everything was
Yeah.
locked down. And
You're in Florida, right?
I was in Florida.
So were you locked down?
I will say it's one as
like, do not leave your home.
Australia was like, I'm going to send the kangaroos after you if you
it
leave
was
your
like-
home.
Yeah. The
But-
cavalry.
That conversation was so crazy. We got into the nitty gritty. We didn't know when you were going to be back.
I know.
stateside.
I
We
had
didn't
no
know
idea.
If, when, how, why, where. And now we are here literally 4.5 years later.
Yeah.
And you are releasing your
Shit, I feel like it's more than that.
4.5 years. 4.5 years.
Holy hell.
Isn't it crazy?
Yeah.
Time perception is a wild thing.
That's a whole podcast in itself.
I know. Experience, time, balance, all of that fun stuff that I've loved digesting with my therapist lately. We
Love
could
it.
go into it
Yeah.
forever.
That sounds-
However,
Yeah.
your debut album, it is coming out
It is coming out.
October 17th.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
I'm very excited.
Tour just started last night.
Yes.
Las Vegas, Denver this evening with
Vegas,
quite the lineup.
Yeah.
And tell me your mental state right now. Tell me how you're feeling.
Honestly, it changes day by day. It's kind of like, it's weird because I've enjoyed, well, maybe not every part of the process, but like I've enjoyed all the different parts of the process. But now it's in such a different part of the process. The process I was in was so introspective, so by myself in my studio, not really talking to anyone, and I was, unless it was like collaborators or like, you know, anything like that. And it was just like about like the writing and all that sort of stuff. And then once I like handed it in, like I'm not touching any more of these songs. From there, it was like, okay, now's the shift to, you know, like taking all the music video, like filming music videos or like creating content around it or like any of that sort of stuff, the admin stuff. And then also like the shows kind of aspect of it. And I think the first like week I was like really uncomfortable with the shift. Like I was really like, oh, like I didn't think when I was writing it how people would perceive it, I guess. Like, well, I did write at the end when I was like, I have to hand this in. And then I was like, shit. I was like, fuck. Like, I'm sending it. I even like sent it to like some of my mates being like, oh, that's the intro. Like, is that a bad idea? Like, you know, like I just didn't think about it. It was just like, that's how it makes sense to me. And then now that it's come into the like, okay, we're going out and being social again and talking to people, it was a bit of like recalibration. And I think in the lead up to, I mean, so like I've started the tour before the album comes out, but obviously 2 singles on the album are already out. So people kind of get an idea. Some people have heard bits and pieces on my story and things like that. But I think, you know, I was a bit nervous about it because I'm like, well, I'm going on tour for this album, but everyone hasn't really heard the album. So I don't know if they're going to like get behind it and like, you know, what that vibe is. But last night in Vegas was amazing. And it was very like, it's nice doing when you go to your own shows because it's so like people are there because they want to be there because they like your stuff, which means I could just be me. I didn't have to be like, oh, okay, well, like I'm at this festival and like, you know, whatever. It's literally like, you guys know what I do and that's why you're here. So last night was really fun for that whole aspect because I was like, okay, I can just like go off and like do it. And the reception was really great. And yeah, I don't know. It's definitely a different headspace from where I was, but I feel great.
Exciting.
I feel great. I mean, long and short of it, I feel great.
That's how you should feel. That's how we all want to feel. And
although I don't know, I'm not trying to get into a whole separate subject, but it's okay to not feel good. And there's a big part of this album that's like that. But I think that's the thing. Like so many of us are like, oh, I just want to like feel good all the time. And obviously you see me playing shows and and I'm very like happy and high energy. But I think it was important for me to like also share like, hey, sometimes I get sad too.
Sometimes it's okay to be sad and sometimes it's okay to show your emotion.
Yes.
I think we've been bred as artists and we've come up in such a like culture and a scene and then you put social media on top of it.
Yeah.
And you're seeing the best of the best of the best of the top 15% of people's lives, of their moments, and not the trials and tribulations, not the hardships, not the everlasting no's and moments of failure that like make you who you are. And it's cool because I'm starting to see in our landscape, people are starting to be more transparent.
Yeah, I think like for artists, it can be really scary to share it because you're worried also about the backlash. I mean, first of all, you have to be very vulnerable to say these things, you know, or like to share them. And then a lot of us are like scared of the backlash because, you know, it is possible to like complain about something but also be grateful. And I think like what a big thing was happening was like an artist would say like, I don't know, something, they're exhausted or they're tired or like whatever. And then the backlash would be like, oh, but like, you know, you're touring the world and you have this amazing life and da-da-da. And it's made, I don't know, especially for me, I was like, well, I don't want to like, I'm so grateful and I love that this is my life. And that's why I'm still choosing to be here every day. You know, like every artist does have a choice. They can, and we've seen it, you know, some people who have gotten, say, burnt out and they realize, wait, I can actually choose not to be traveling. I can choose to, you know, whatever it is. So I think like some artists definitely were like, oh, I'm a bit too scared to share that because I don't want it to look, you know, I'm scared of the backlash. But like for me, I'm like, obviously I give out, people know that I'm grateful. I talk about it all the time. So I'm like, well, I can still have hard times and still be grateful. You know what I mean? So I know it can be hard for people to talk about.
I feel like everybody's life is a result of the choices they make. And I definitely have had moments and I've talked to other artists that literally have said exactly what you're saying in terms of I'm so grateful to be where I am, but I also have worked my ass off to get there. And in addition to that, it is a privilege for us to be doing what we're doing, But every single thing that has a really high has a really low
Yeah.
that's associated with
Yeah.
it. And you'll see a lot of people talk about when they get off stage for a massive festival and then you're back at home alone in a hotel room.
And you're like, holy shit.
You, coming from Australia, family occasions, weddings, friends.
Yeah.
There's so much that comes with the sacrifice of being able to, in this situation, share your art and be honest. And the biggest thing that I noticed when I started to see the rollout, and especially even with like the first 2 singles and then finally getting to listen through the album, I was like, we are in our vulnerable area.
Yeah.
Which
honestly, I think the filter for me, I'm just like, I don't have the energy to keep that filter. I mean, like, for people who've met me in person, they know how I am. I find it a lot easier to communicate, through talking. I don't know, because I can kind of like explain it a little bit better. I'm not great with like written words or things like that, or even social media as much. And I think when people meet me and when I talk to people, like they can kind of see, I don't know, like I don't have as much of a filter because I can really like talk through it. And I don't know, anyone that I talk to or anyone I'm around, I try and keep it very open in terms of like, the conversation can go anyway, and I don't want anyone to feel uncomfortable with sharing how they actually feel about things. Because I think the problem is often when people are like, I have to think the same as you or whatever, so then they get too scared to say anything. But that doesn't really that's not really a conversation. That's talking
it's not a conversation.
Wall, and if you're I don't know, if you're agreeing with everything that someone else says, like that's cool, but like where can you learn and grow in that kind of thing? And I think especially recently, like my filter has just, I don't know, I don't have as much of a filter in terms of like, okay, this is how I feel, and I can't really I don't really need to hide it, I just don't feel the need to hide it anymore. I'm going to say it. And if you have very strong opinions about how you hate that, okay, that's fine. Like, go live your life. Like, that's, I don't know.
I think you just honestly described how a lot of people expect artists to exist in our landscape. It's kind of like, you stay over there.
Yeah.
You don't say anything wrong. Yeah. You don't open your mouth.
Exactly.
But then go and make us money.
You have to open your mouth about, I don't know, whatever this. And then I'm like, I don't know anything about that. Why would I open my mouth about that? It's very like, I don't know. And also too, obviously, like a lot of people hold artists to such a high standard. Mm-hmm. But obviously we're just people too. What I mean? Trying to life. And also like, we're people that like have strong feelings and have strong emotions and do a lot of contemplating and don't always get it right. And that's in the music and in everything. And, when people kind of nitpick your every move, it also becomes hard because then you're like, well, I'm too scared. Like I definitely have moments where I'm like, I'm too scared to do anything because I'm scared it's wrong, which like, I don't know. There's definitely to be honest, this album really came from when I started sort of doing it out of, I used to like back when I was in Australia and all this sort of stuff, all of the music stuff was out of like, this sounds so fucking woo-woo, but like out of love. It was very much like I kind of like ended up in a career of it sort of by accident. It was just like for passion and I loved it and it just kept growing and growing until eventually I was like, oh, I think I can like really do this. And so it was always out of love. And I was so far removed from like industry stuff. I was just like, I like writing music. I love this and da da da. And then I think there was a period once I moved here, it was so scary. Like, and I know like there's so many things obviously scarier, but at the time I was like, I moved here like that proper time, like during the end of COVID. Mm-hmm. When I left Australia, I had to sign a stat deck saying I promise I won't come back because they weren't letting people back in the country, right? Oh, it was my first time properly living away from my family and I moved here alone. No one could visit me. I couldn't go home and I was starting this career here, which was all new to me. Like I only knew bits and pieces that I'd seen on the internet, but I didn't really know everything. And so I kind of came over here, and I couldn't, also on our visas, we can't get any other jobs. Like I can't get a bar job or anything. And when you're just starting out, which again, it's like you're starting from the beginning kind of again, because you're going to a new country and no one knows who you are. And I was just like, I need to pay rent. I need to survive. I'm in an apartment by myself, like living in LA, which was nuts for someone who was living in the suburbs of Sydney with your parents. Like I was like, this is crazy. And so I just was like, it was all like I was doing everything out of fear. Like, oh my God, I need to like grind and hustle and work and play every show and save every cent and, you know, like all of this sort of stuff. And I just got stuck in that, like, I'm too scared to make a wrong step, because if I do, it's over. I've done all of this and come all the way over here and sacrificed all that for nothing, which is now I'm so much more wise and mature. And I love that. That's not the case at all. But, you know, once I was just sort of stuck in that spiral. And once I finally was like, you know, and this was something that I had a artist coach that really helps like unlock a lot of that for me. He goes by Nick Cherwink, and he
was going to shout him out.
Fucking amazing.
Headliner mindset right there.
Fucking amazing. But he was like part of it. I knew that I was stuck, and, you know, he helped me kind of unlock this whole like moving out of love. And it's, again, sounds so fucking woo woo, but I don't know. You can take love and tell it whatever, but instead of moving out of fear. And that's when all of this album just started being like, I just stopped holding back on it, because some of these songs I started writing in 2017, but a lot of them I was like, I'm gonna hold on to this until like I feel like I could put it out. And I didn't really know at the time what that meant. And then now that I'm in this headspace, I'm like, oh, like, you know, like
take it.
I love it. Like, you know, it's not even for it is for other people, obviously, but in some ways, but like I wrote it for me. It was like my cathartic process.
I think that's where the best art comes from, though.
Yeah.
Because you even posted a little clip about it, and I think it was about Ashes, how you put out a record that's incredibly personable to you and your own story and the reason why it was written. But then everybody gets to interpret it however they would like.
Yeah. And to be honest, there's quite a lot of songs on the album that I purposely wrote them like I was writing it about my thing, but I made it in a way that I was like, I know that other people can draw. Like that one in particular, like I knew what I was writing it about, but I also didn't want to make it about that for other people, because for some people that I was like, this topic, even though it was a cathartic process for me, that topic for some people might not, you know, when they listen to it, it may not have the same effect. But I wanted it to be a song that they could take and apply it to any of their own life experiences, because there's so many songs that I listen to, and I'm sure they were written in a complete different context, but I listen to them and I'm like, oh, this just like is exactly how I feel, you know, like this, it sounds like they've written it for me, but it's just because that's how I'm interpreting it. So yeah, there are a few songs on the album that are a bit like that I, you know, I wrote it about something, and that's why I haven't really gone too forward with this is what I wrote about, because I do want people to have a clean interpretation. And then afterwards I'm like, okay, a lot of you guys see it like this, or I'm very interested to see, like, to hear how people interpret it, because it's just like interesting to me, like people's stories and their experience. But then, you know, I do share like this is actually like what was happening or why I wrote it and all that sort of stuff. So,
and that's the beauty of social media now. If you can find, I feel like you have found how to utilize it in a way that you're comfortable.
Oh my God, yeah. And it took so long.
It takes so much longer than the average person who looks at a musician, an influencer, or whatever, to use it in a way that is true and authentic to them.
Yeah.
And I feel like you have always, obviously, DJs sometimes now do this, but you've always circulated your feed around the music you're releasing.
Yeah.
So now I feel like that you've unlocked like this whole new level of, you know, we're not just doing what I need to do to stay in the position I'm at. I'm going to take a risk. I'm going to unveil this next layer of the SIPPY project, new SIPPY era. You have so much to say.
Yes. That's the other thing too, because it was funny for me because right at the start, like I always thought like I have a lot to say. I have a lot to me. I have a lot of layers to me, but I don't know, when it came to like, I guess like a branding side or how people kind of saw me or picked up on me, the thing that they eventually caught on to, I guess first was like this whole gremlin persona, which was great because that also just happened naturally. It was just how I was and how I am.
It's how you are. It's literally how you are.
But I never thought, I don't know. I'm also like not someone who loves being on their phone. I'm not a social media person at all. So I never really thought about using it. It was just how I was. And it was always like, say for example, at Lost Lands, I'm just in the artist area being a goofball, like whatever. And then obviously as I got bigger, more and more people recognized me and then they would just see me and like film videos of me being like, what?
She's having a moment.
Yeah. Like what the fuck's going on over there? And it's just me. I don't know.
But that's you. But that's literally you.
Yeah. And then that kind of like just sort of blew up organically. And then I got to a point too with that, which I loved because I was like, oh, okay, I can just be silly and people are like okay with it, you know? But then I also got to a point where I'm like, this is like kind of funny and ironic because I know like I am a deep thinker and I do have so many different skills and so much random life experience and things like that. But I'm not really like, I don't really want to sit here and not make it heavy and talk about it, but just like, I don't know, it wasn't like feeling right. But now I'm also seeing, I'm like, okay, like we can do both of these. You know what I mean?
You can do both, man.
Yeah. And I think once like you're so right in terms of like finding how to be on social media and be your authentic self because it's hard to find that. You know, I've started looking at social media completely different to how I used to. And obviously, like, I can see so much of it, which is people being like, oh, I need to market and branding and da-da-da. And it's all like shock value and get their attention and da-da-da. And then I stopped looking at it like that sort of thing and started looking longer term, bigger picture. Like, I would rather have way less followers, but we're all engaged and creating a community.
Yep.
Versus, oh, I have heaps of followers and I have viral clips or whatever. Especially like that's why, for example, on Instagram, like I respond to DMs all the time. Like don't get me wrong, sometimes I miss some, but for the most part, like I literally put my inboxes on unread and I go through every single one. And the reason why that's important to me is because I'm not going to say community because that even makes it too big. Like people are important to me. And that's why having that, I'm like, again, I'm more of an in-person person, but obviously you can't always be in person. So like having that connection that way, I'm like, oh, it makes me take it from, okay, it's just online to like, we are people and we're connecting. And even though we have completely different lives and different everything, you know, like some of us are from completely different countries, some of us are different religions, like whatever, but we can still, you know, like connect and talk and all of that sort of stuff. And obviously then when we get to see each other in real life at shows and all that, it's like really, I don't know, it's just really, it's an awesome experience, especially when you just feel, it just feels natural because I'm not, you know, again, because I'm communicating on there authentically, it's like, well, now these people, they know what I'm like, you know, so if they're not in, that's fine, you know, that's who I am and that's what I'm like, and I'm not for everyone, but then there's like a relief from me because I'm like, okay, so you know I'm like this and you're okay with that, you know, okay, great, you know, we can be friends, you know.
And you're not this untouchable figure, which I think a lot of artists, when they reach the point that you're at, become a bit untouchable. Like they're like, hey, maybe I'll see your story response or I'll see you on TikTok. But there's so many like wheels going around in their head of things they have to do every day. And everyone from a business standpoint is right now virality. Catch them in the first 120 seconds. And you see it in agencies. You see it in people who are playing tour support for certain artists. And you as an artist, again, comes back to the beginning of our conversation. What is the choice you're going to make in how you approach your project? Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, like I very much got stuck in that for a little while, as in, because the whole industry tells you that that's what you're meant to do. You genuinely believe it. And I'm going to say it, like the industry, they'll tell you how it's meant to be, but that doesn't mean that's how it is, you know? Like, I mean, sorry, it may be how it is right now, or that's what's just happened recently and all this sort of stuff. But there are some artists, yes, that are, being recognized because of that virality and and there's no discredit to that. That's definitely, I mean, most of them are making the big bucks, so that's fine. But there's also a place for people not in that side who are genuinely trying to make art, and they're making art for the love of art. Sorry, I'm also not saying this that the virality people aren't making the art. They are, but I'm not trying to offend anybody.
Not everyone's. Let's offend everybody.
But there is a space to be, making art, and it doesn't necessarily have to follow those guidelines. And also, like, half the time people don't know what the next thing is until it's already there.
There.
Yeah.
Which is why chasing trends and going, this is popping, this tune from the 90s is popping, let me get on it, get on it. You're in the right place for the right conversation.
Yeah, like I think some people, like say for example, like Chase and Status, I've been listening to them forever. Like, since I first got into bass music. But it's like, it's really interesting because they have had, years of highs, years of lows. Like, I'm not going to say lows,
but because that's how it goes.
Yeah, but seeing them, they have had and will have a long career. You know what I mean? And that's something completely different. Like I am really frustrated at the moment with these turn and burn kind of careers that are like, oh, they're here for 3 years and then they disappear, because it's like, and that's sort of being prioritized, because I'm like,
it's a waste of art.
Yeah.
It really is.
It doesn't encourage artists to push the boundaries and to create, like.
It makes people feel, and what you were saying, Maddie O'Neill said this in a different way when I sat down with her 2 weeks ago. It makes a lot of people who are in art for the love of art feel like it's unobtainable or unachievable because the only way to do it is by having a viral moment.
Yeah,
and
because for me, I'm like, and I realized this like as I was going through this process, like what makes me really happy is creating the art, right? I'm like, when I was writing that album, I was just like, oh my God, this is just like the best. Like I fucking love it. And then, but as an artist, you're like, you do get to a point where you're like, well, do I even need to bother sharing it? If I like making the art, but it's not really, no one really cares about it, well, why share it? And I still think it should be shared regardless of how the industry is and whether it's going to be viral or not and da-da-da. But I think, like some artists go, well, what's the point? Why am I doing this? And da-da-da. Now, some of them do find their point and some don't. But there was also something else I was going to say with the, talking about sort of like having that connection with fans and talking to fans kind of more directly. Like I definitely have gotten to a point where some things have gotten a lot more difficult. Like say, for example, some places doing meet and greets, I try to do them as often as I can, but sometimes I do feel like I hate taking all of that time.
Your Lost Lands.
Yeah.
Yeah, you made that post.
Because I was going to make it during the weekend, but then I was like, I want everyone just off having fun and whatever. But I was getting a lot of questions about meet and greets and all that. And the year before, we were there for hours doing the meet and greet. Now, for me, I will happily spend hours to do that. But, and there's pros and cons to this, but I just, seeing the time that was chewed up by people waiting to see me is what kind of upset. No, I mean, I know they have a choice, they can leave and whatever, but I was just like, I don't want people to miss out on being in the moment and living because they're like waiting in like a line. And so, I think a big part of it is more like, all right, well, I'm going to be out in the crowd and doing it that way. But some of those things have become harder. Obviously, replying to DMs is harder, but everywhere else I have no idea. But Instagram is one that I'm just like pretty on top of, and I try and talk to people, catch me on a good day or not a good day in terms of like how accessible I am. But I try to do it. But my whole headspace with that is I want to be accessible to my fans, but inaccessible to the industry. Because for me, and not saying that that's how it is, but for me, the fans are what like they're the reason that I'm here. Like that, this is my job.
Yes.
Job. I love it. But
they're like almost your employees. Like they're not. They're not.
It's like
but
my employer,
but
because they're
yes,
the ones being.
Yes.
We are showing up because we love your art and we're interested in it, and we want, like, this is why, like, for my sets, like, I'll give all the time and energy every set, because I'm like, if this is a night for you to just come out and just forget about everything else, like, I want to give that to you as much as possible. You know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong, I have an amazing team. I have, an industry. I've met so many.
You have one of the
people.
best teams, in my opinion. Yes.
Very, very good team. And we've been together for ages. So like we've been through the whole, the whole up and down. But it's more of it's just more of my priority being between me and the people that, because they're really creating this with me. I don't know. They
support your art and inspire you.
Yeah.
And they're like the reason why you keep going. It's like you go to any artist, and I think it's really easy to get so lost because there's so many different voices. And especially when, you want to talk about viral moments, viral acts, a lot of this happens when they're younger than 25. They're younger than, and you're like, these big mid-30s to 40-year-old, 50-year-old men know so much and have so much experience. And I have to listen to them when the thing that really makes your day is the message you get about the record that you made that saved somebody's life, or that show was my first rave and you made me fall in love with dance music. Like, those are the moments that you have to remember as an artist when you have so many voices in your head telling you to do things that you don't feel are true to you. Every job is going to have things that 100%. You don't want to do. 100%.
Yeah.
But that's different than changing your vision or honing a path because somebody's telling you it's the way to success.
And it is really hard. Like, as an artist, you're getting so much input. This is why I also think, like, Aussie artists, for example, there's so many talented Aussie artists. And I genuinely think one of the reasons is because we're so far away from everything that you are like, you don't actually have a big feedback loop of what's going to make you successful or not successful. You just are sitting there listening to your own intuition as an artist. And I think, because you're kind of so far away from it. And that is kind of what I lost when I first came over here, because I was like, oh my God, there's so much, so much. I'm being told what to do from every different angle. And I'm listening to it all, but it doesn't really make sense. And even though people sound like they know what they're talking about, like, they don't necessarily know what they're talking about, or like that, just because they know that doesn't mean it's going to work for me. And it's definitely it's a hard thing to navigate as an artist, to really like listen to your own intuition. And it is scary because it's also like, oh, I'm going to listen to my own intuition, but if it's wrong, I've got no one to blame but myself. Now, there is no wrong, but you always think, we all think that in different, it doesn't have to be like as an artist, like, if you're trying to make a life decision and you're like, oh, I don't want to make the wrong decision. Well, what's the wrong decision really? Like, maybe there's a decision that you're not proud of, or took you down a path that was difficult. But I think all those paths are needed to sort of build your life.
They're so needed. And we've been conditioned to fear failure, which is one of the most dangerous things that could have ever happened in this society with social media, because there's so much beauty in failure. And you look at any, like, take yourself out of the artist seat that isn't business minded or political minded or X, Y, and Z. The best results come from failure. You look at entrepreneurs that start businesses over again and again and again. And it's not their first business. It's not the second business. Maybe it's their seventh business.
Yeah.
And they just hit it. It takes one time to hit it. But if you can't, you can't accept the accountability for maybe having one thing wrong or saying one thing a little too opinionated, then it's going to be really hard to like live in your own skin at one point.
Yeah. And I think also too, like, people are, I don't know, it kind of, like, the way that people see success is really interesting to me because, obviously people say things to me where they're like, oh my God, like you're killing it and it's this, that, and the other, but like, I don't necessarily see success maybe in the same way that like some other people see it. Sure, don't get me wrong. There are some things where I'm like, oh, I just want to be like, I want to be Skrillex. Like, what I mean? I want to be like whatever. But like, I think there's, even when I notice it more when I meet fans, and I think in their head, they're like, oh, well, you're really successful and I'm not. But in my head, I'm like, why? I also think you're successful. It's just different things, different, like something that you're trying to achieve that's completely different. Like successful can look like I have a stable job that I love. I have a family that I love. I have a passion that I love. And I'm happy and I'm working on myself. Like, I don't think success always has to be like, I'm the biggest at this thing or I have all the money or like a lot of people know me. You know what I mean? And I think there is a big pressure to be whatever, the big and da-da-da, and how other people see success.
The numbers.
Yeah.
They find it in the numbers that they see when they open their phone.
Yeah. The phones. God.
Yeah.
I hate phones, but
I fully agree with you. I mean, I think there's been a lot of moments in my like mid to late 20s where I've turned around and gone, what is your definition of being successful and what is going to make you most happy?
Exactly.
Because that definition, I think, is like predetermined in a lot of people's minds until they reach a spot and they're like, wait, is this like,
well, because that's the thing. Like if you're not doing that, it doesn't matter how big you get. You don't get more happy. If anything, it makes it way worse.
So much worse.
Yeah. So it's like, as soon as you're good with yourself, it makes everything else a lot easier for sure. But yeah, I've had moments where I'm like, even when I moved here and I was like on tours and all this stuff, and I had this like moment where I was like, oh, like, why do I not feel happy right now? Like I should feel happy. And then I was like, I have depression.
Hello.
But that's what that is. Like,
yes. And you have to like look inside yourself. And I think that so many people, they look back at like fiscal years every time like your birthday comes around or whatever.
Yeah.
And for such a long time, and for so many people I've spoken to, and maybe it's just because I'm growing older.
Yeah.
It's become like a list of accolades and what did you do? Who did you meet? How many things did you accomplish? To what did you do in inner work that's made you a better person so that you can peacefully accomplish these things?
I have that like in my family, like a lot of the time on New Year's, we like have our like resolution. My dad loves sitting around the table.
Good resolution.
Like, all right. What's our resolution for the year? Oh God, here we go. But there was one year, a couple of years ago, that my resolution was I want this year. For me, it's normally like, what am I going to prioritize this year? And that year this is the year that I'm going to prioritize my mental health over everything else. And having like something like that is very like, I don't know, it's you can keep doing all your things in life and da-da-da, but it's less of like did I make more money? It's more inside and it's more internal and it's like bettering your life. And I think a lot of people look for outside things to better their life.
Absolutely.
But honestly, like it sounds so woo-woo, but it like comes from the inside. Like, I don't know.
It really does.
Yeah.
It so doesn't, because I've been going through the same exact thing. And I think if you don't eventually deal with it, it hits you in the face.
So it really hits you. Yeah. And people they don't know what it is a lot of the time. And then they're like, oh, and some people don't also like, they don't necessarily wake up from it. There's certain levels of consciousness, I guess.
Yes.
I know there's a whole chart or something. I don't know. But there's definitely like levels of consciousness where there are some people that I see that I'm like, oh, you're choosing not to be aware of that or like to shut it out so you don't have to deal with it.
It shows up in patterns.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's a relationship with your manager, if it's a business relationship, if it's a significant other, if it's a
relationship
friendship,
yourself,
a relationship, the way that you talk to yourself, your inner voice.
That's a really hard one as an artist to like have good self-talk, especially
the inner
when
dialogue
around you is either telling you why someone else is better than you or someone else deserves more money or that they like someone else better or that you suck and da-da-da. Like trying to not listen to constant negative feedback and being like, like, I think I'm pretty good. Like,
and then taking no's on top of that just from like an everyday basis and then navigating a personal life where you are supposed to show up for people and be kind.
Yeah.
And you have somebody on the phone going, well, they sold 1,400 tickets and you only sold 1,100. So this is why this is the way it is.
Yeah.
And it is such a feat that I think only experience and time and mistakes and failures and hopefully a huge invisible thing hitting yourself in the head gets you there.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you've at least opened the door to it. And do you think that you would have written this album if you didn't handle those things?
I think I would have written, well, honestly, yeah, I think I would have written the album. I don't know if I would have released it. Because that's the thing, like some of these songs I wrote like a long time ago, and some of them were, you know, within the past year. So I think I still would have written it. I just don't think, I mean, obviously there's a lot in there that have happened because of this whole experience. I don't think it probably would have been more of an EP.
Yeah.
You know, now I'm like, okay, but I think the writing was very cathartic for me. So I always, you know, I wouldn't say I'm necessarily a person that writes like as a release, or at least not when I'm writing the silly goose shit, you know, like Gremlin, whatever. Like that's just me like getting that energy out. But writing this, like what the album is kind of like, is definitely me getting emotion out. Also, more so, I actually write the song first. Not for all of them, but like mostly in the emotion that I feel, I write the song without any lyrics. And then I come back and do the lyrics.
Okay.
Because it's just like, that's just how it kind of happens and comes naturally. And I don't want to process the feelings too much at the start. I want them just to be raw feelings. Yeah. And I feel like when I start putting it into words,
you start thinking about things.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, but that doesn't really explain it. And I'm like, right now for myself, I don't want to do that. And then when I come back to explain it, I'm not as attached to the feeling because I've sort of processed it a bit more.
100%. I feel like through listening to the album, a lot of the vocalists that you worked with, not only were they incredible, they're all so different. I think this is the era of unique vocalists, and I'm so fucking here for it. I've heard so many incredible, not your cookie cutter Kesha belting, pop goes EDM vocalists, and like your album just features so many of them very tastefully, but they're following melodies that came out in that cathartic process. Where I feel like they're melodies that I think oftentimes, because we're in such an intricate lane of music, people forget about the melodies that like the world can attach themselves to. And everything, all of the records flow so easily to a point where it's like, I use like the phrase like a campfire song, where like you get something in your head and you're like, oh, that could be like any song, like a children's song or whatever. And it comes out in this nostalgic style of bass music that is still very true to you. But I feel like before this moment in time, you've had emotional singles for sure, 100%. But as far as like a body of work, this is a new SIPPY.
Yeah. I think also that's why I held on to a lot of them for a while, because I was like, I want to put this out, but I don't really know. I wasn't enjoying putting out those styles of songs as singles, I think, because it's like an emotion that's only caught for a second. And for some reason, like when I'm in that state and I want to listen to that sort of like style of music, I don't really want to listen to one song. Like I kind of want to be in that headspace for a while. And I think like I'd put out like a heavier track, but I was like, I don't feel heavy right now, but I have to promote the heavy song. And like, I don't know, it was just a hard one to kind of navigate. And this album has, you know, all different kind of styles and variations. You know, some are more happy, some are very melancholic. Like it's, I don't know, kind of all over the place. But yeah, I did keep a lot of these knowing that I wanted them to be a part of a body of work. But it was honestly the start, like before the start of the year. And I was like, I don't have any songs to release. Like, I got to look at what I'm going to release next. And then like literally I went through all my songs and I was like, oh, not only do I have songs to release, I have an album. But I was just putting them away. And then like not forgetting about them, but I was never looking necessarily to like release them. I just knew like I'll keep it on the side there. And then, eventually I don't know, there'll be a reason for them. But also with a lot of the vocalists too, like most of the songs I wrote with the vocalists. So some of the vocals are me, obviously. Like as in, obviously I didn't have to like
are your vocals on Home?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I was wondering because I was like, this maybe could do her.
Yeah,
this maybe isn't
maybe
her. I'm not
That's
sure.
the best thing about being a producer. I'm like,
Is this the first time that you've sung?
I sang on there's a song I have out, not captive. One of those.
Okay.
What is it?
But this is the first time you've used it like consistently in a body of work.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
Okay.
for sure.
Yeah.
So I think on the album, I'm on like at least 4, if not more.
Yeah.
There's also sometimes, I was on Ashes, but just that first little vocal line, and then it goes into Marley. But this one was pretty consistent. Some was because I was like, again, when I wrote them years ago, I had pretty much no access to vocalists. So I was like, well, I can't get anyone to sing on this. I'll just do it myself. And then some were like, I want to get this out, whereas there were some others that I'm like, this is what I want this to be about. And I can't articulate it on myself, like by myself. But say, for example, when Marley and I sat down, I showed her the song. She's like, oh my God, this is great, da, da, da. And I was like, this is what I want to write about. Told her the whole story, told her everything, and was like, okay, like, and then we were writing it together. Obviously, she's incredible, and she's just like, blah, 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 and I was like,
Perfect.
Amazing, like perfect. But it was great because I could tell my story and still feel that connected to it. Same with Matilda Pearl. We did a session in Sydney together with it. Know Me, we did a session in LA. That one was like really great, fun, process. And then the only one that wasn't like that, Artifice, we did, like I kind of sent him this is what I want it to be about, and these are the concepts, and here's some keywords. But I was like, I love his flow, so I'm like, you do your thing with that. And honestly, I didn't even, I think he sent me the first one. I was like, that's exactly, like it's good when you pick people that to work with that you just love what they do and you can kind of just give your style. I don't know. It just was great. But
like a true collaboration.
Yeah, exactly. But the one that I didn't do that with was Bianca, who I've worked with before. But when I was writing the album, I was like, there's one song missing and I don't know, there's something missing and I don't know what it is, but I know it. I'll know it when it comes, and I need to kind of sit down and write a bit to figure out what it is. And then she was like, hey, Sip, I hope you're well. I have this like top line that I just think is you, and she sent it to me and I was like, that is what it's missing, like that. And so that's the only vocal that I didn't, that was just, she gave it to me and I wrote the whole song around it because I was just like, I need this. This is like this has to be in there. So that was the only one, but all the others were just me.
That's so exciting.
Or like working with incredible, vocalists and top liners.
Did you start writing it nonchalantly, like without being like, hey, this is going to be an album that I'm going to release and it's going to be out in the world?
Yeah, honestly, it was a bit like I'd written some songs so long ago and they were just off to the side. And I think once I saw all of them and this is an album. I'm going to put out an album. I've always wanted to put out an album, but when it felt right.
Yeah.
And I saw them all and I was like, yeah, this is it. I'm putting out an album. And from that point, I was like, okay, I think for the first like few months, I was like, oh, I'm putting out an album, but I'm like, putting out an album, like, like it's not really real. And then when I started to like really get into it, I was like, oh shit, like I'm like writing
we are in an album.
Yeah. And especially when I had to start making hard decisions on songs that weren't going to make the cut and, finding writers, top liners for some of the songs too. I was like, I wanted to choose that very wisely. And, that's when it started to get a bit more like, oh my God, I'm putting out an album. And then when I had to like, even submitting, it was more when it went out there and I was like, I'm releasing an album. That's when I was a bit like, holy shit. And it was pretty like, I did have moments, right? Like it was very like all encompassing where I was like, okay, like I need to like focus and and like put my head down, and I can't really focus on anything else other than this right now. Even though I still had to, I was like flying to Australia. I was with my sister and her new baby, and like, you know, I was juggling shows and this and that and all of that. But it was like, I don't know, it was definitely, you know, there was moments where I'm like the last 2 weeks, I was working from 10 a.m. till midnight every day. Just,
this is it.
I'm in
Final
the room. I had, it was just like nonstop. I had like a few people that I was working with and some of the, you know, top liners and all that I'm sending back and forth, and engineers and, you know, all this kind of stuff. And it started to be like, holy shit, this is like a whole production. But yeah, it was, by the end it got like serious, especially like the intro to the album. So that was like the second last vocal that I recorded, and that honestly was just a bed that I had from like 2018 or something. I tried to reproduce it, and it didn't hit like the first version.
Yep.
And then, but I didn't record the vocal for so long because I was like almost scared, or like I knew it was like a big job for me, like emotionally and just like talking about it, that I was like, I need to be, that's a whole day. That's just like, you know.
And that's a whole day. That would have been like a whole fucking week for me. I was listening to it, driving in my car, and I'm just like, how good Liz is gonna be it. I was like, I'm either gonna throw up or start crying, because everybody like, one, I was like, I cannot believe like she did this. I was like, holy shit, like this is incredible.
Honestly, after I wrote, because I wrote it and I was like, yeah, like that's it. And then I like came out of it and was like, oh fuck, that means people are gonna hear it. Like people are gonna listen to it. And not only are they gonna listen to it, it's the first thing they hear on the album. And I'm like, and that was the first time actually that I even thought about how the whole album would be perceived, because I was like, are they going to hear this song and go, yeah, no, thank you. You know, like that's genuinely the thought that made me be like, holy shit, people are going to listen to this album and they're either going to want to listen or not listen. And
I got so excited. I was like, let's fucking go. Track 2. Here we are.
And honestly, I recorded that I was in a studio back in Australia. Actually, I had all the fucking doors shut, blinds drawn, turn the lights off. It was fucking dark, and I'm just like sitting there with I wrote it all in one day. It came from like journaling, free flowing, and then slowly kind of created shape and and then even some of it I had written, and then as I was saying it, the lyrics changed as I was just saying it, because it just I honestly, again, like, you know, when some people are like, oh, you're just like in the zone, or like, you know, whatever, like that's what it was like. It just like happened. And there's obviously that like line in it that's like makes me want to cry, and that wasn't the original lyric, but that's what came out. And I was like, I don't know, I'm like, I don't know if I want to, no, I'm not gonna give it away, but you know, that's just what came out. And I was like, I like listened back to it, I'm like, holy shit, like that, okay, that was it. Like genuinely just like how it felt, completely raw, just
Is that how you came up with the name for the album?
So the name for the album I'd already come up with.
Okay.
Yeah. But the whole concept of like the name of the album came from like, these are essentially all the scars of, you know, my journey till here, but I'm putting it out, you know, as songs, you know? So, and, you know, scars can be positive or negative. They can be like, oh, I had a fucking great night and I fell over and grazed my leg and now I still have a scar on my leg or whatever. And some of it is like, you know, heavy shit that happened or stuff that I found hard or whatever it is. But that was more where that concept, like where the name came from.
Okay.
And then obviously, you know, when I wrote the intro, like at the end, I was like, and this is it. Like this is it, like printed in stereo, you know, like have it all, you know, like this is kind of like the story for you guys to now like listen to. So
I was literally listening to the intro and I was just like, oh, and I feel like anyone, whether they're an artist or not an artist, me being an artist, and I would confidently say every artist that's been doing this for a little bit of time has had these moments that are just like, what the fuck? Or like lost or just like, I can't believe this is what's being said to me right now. I can't believe these are what's my expectations. All I want to do is make is art. Yeah. And I felt like all of this stuff during the intro. And I was like, that's the last thing I expected. But it's so good.
Being like,
no, I think it's gonna rock people's world. I think people are gonna listen to it, and I'm sure you've gotten obviously feedback from a few people.
Well, now that I've like sent it to a few people, and I'm like, only at the beginning when I was like, fuck, should I not put this as the intro? Like my manager hadn't even heard it until it was like, submit it for DSPs, and then he's a very hard guy to impress, and he doesn't often get like excited about things, and he was like, holy shit, like this is
that was me. I was like, holy shit. And I also went like, my thought process was that I haven't heard someone do this in the space. What we talked about earlier, you don't really know that you need it until it's actually presented in front of you. And I was just like, it's poetic, but it's heavy. And then it goes into an awesome single, and it like it just conceptualizes the whole thing and presenting it on a platter as this is an album. Yeah. You know?
And the other thing is too, like I wrote it without, again, I didn't like write it, for example, for my career. You know, I wrote it for me. And I think that's why, you know, as it comes out, it's kind of like, I don't know, none of it, there was no part of that writing process that I was like, oh, but is this going to do better for TikTok? Or like, oh, is this going to get me booked more shows? Like I could not, when creating this album, none of that has come into my head. You know, it was more just like, I want to write this music. I want to get it out. I want to, you know, like I want to share it with others if it's going to help them. You know what I mean? And so I think that's also why, like when I was creating it, it was like, okay, I have no rules, so I can write it how I want to, like how it makes sense for me. And, you know, it wasn't until, like I said, that point where I was like, oh shit, like now people are actually going to hear this. You know what I mean? And it is scary. And I'm not going to lie, I don't like the sound of my own voice. So like hearing that, you're like, oh God. But for some reason, the album doesn't, like hearing it doesn't make me cringe like I normally would, because it feels like the emotion rather than me. It's not about me telling people what's what or how to do it or da-da-da. It's just me.
It's like you existing. You're just being yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, it was a bit of a crazy process, but it's wild. But I'm glad you like it. I don't know.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. I'm obsessed with it. And I feel like, honestly, just writing music in terms of not thinking about the release strategy and how we can promote this and how it can be on TikTok. You say it and I hear myself say it. Like I've said it to my manager and I'm like, this sounds crazy that I'm thinking about this when I just want to be creating. Yeah. And I said, like, this has to go. Yeah. I was like, this cannot be this determining factor in what I'm using as my justification to create something. Yeah. And the fact that you were able to do a whole record, and again, therapeutic for yourself, but so many people are going to be able to relate to whatever part of the record or the body of work as a whole as they want. Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely like, I don't know, like I know obviously the marketing part of it is, you know, is part of the game when, you know, you are an artist that's, like performing and touring and all that sort of stuff. But I think like, well, something like this is like, well, this is genuinely like my experience. So it's like the only thing that was a bit difficult at the start was like, okay, like letting myself be a little bit more vulnerable on my social media instead of just in person. I am, it's fine. Like I'm like that, but on social media, I kind of struggled with it a little bit. But once I opened that door, I'm like, well, now I can talk about it
just how it is. Like I don't even have to think about how I'm like marketing.
It's natural.
You know? Yeah, exactly.
It's natural.
Exactly. And it makes it a lot easier, you know, when it like that social media stuff becomes like a little less draining. I mean, it's still
draining.
It's still draining.
It's so unhealthy, but it's part of the quote unquote job facet that we talk about where we're not going to enjoy everything. Yeah. And I would also feel like you are more inspired and motivated and excited to share this with your fans versus doing something for the gram or the outlet, you know?
I mean, I'm excited for it to be out because I do really want to see what people, you know, react to, respond to, how they interpret things. And I don't know. I want to see for people like, say, for example, like today on the flight, I was listening to a Zeds album. As you can hear from the album, it's so heavily inspired by them. But I was listening to Catching Z's. And for me, like listening to that album gives me like is it Catching Z's? I don't know. Anyway, I was sitting there every time I put it on, I have a moment where I'm like, oh, I can sit here, I'm on the plane, and I'm like, this is my moment where I'm not doing anything but listening to the music and I'm sitting there just breathing and feeling. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, with this album, like I do, not that has to be how it is for everyone, but I'm like, because it was so like that for me to write it and to listen back to it, like I'm kind of excited to see that for my fans, you know, like to give them a moment to sit back and you know, be in it, be in their feelings and like feel like someone's hugging them through it, you know, like you said, like if you're listening to the intro and you're crying, like I'm there hugging you, or I'm there being like, it's okay to cry about this, and, you know, like be here, be in the moment and do it. And then, you know, like give yourself that time. Yeah.
So exciting.
Yeah.
I'm so excited for everybody to hear it. And same thing, I was obsessed with Zed's last few album. That inspired me.
No,
that body of work inspired me. Unlike any record I've come in contact with in a very long time, and I just put it on, and there's very few pieces of work where I go, nothing else is being thought about. Like you're just focusing and you're feeling. And I think that's every artist's like dream, is to have the consumer in this day and age of the phone and the TV and whatever else may be going on to just say, nope, we're shutting off. Yeah. We're listening. And I definitely see that in your album, which is so exciting. For anybody listening, is there anything else that you would want to share about the album that you maybe haven't touched on before I let you go?
Honestly, I mean, I think the only other thing too is, well, not that like a lot of this has been seen yet, but there is like a lot of like the visual components in terms of like the album artworks and the visuals that are coming out. I'm doing music videos and all that sort of stuff. Like I also kind of, I don't know, if people have been following me since the start, they may or may not have seen like a bit of a pattern, but all the songs that are like this, that are a bit more in the feels, usually have an organic element to them in terms of like, there's a photo element, it's a person, it's me. Like Hypergeal was my first EP, I think, and it was me with like my skin had been pulled back and I had like fur, like the gremlin bunny fur under my skin kind of thing. And that was like, although to be honest, that was a harder EP. But then, you know, I did for Captive, it was like a, you know, photo element, blah, blah. And so this album is the same sort of thing, like bringing that organic. And then the whole point of having pretty much all of the visuals are like photos or videos or whatever. And there's essentially like sketching and drawing and doodling over it. And the reason why that's kind of the visual theme for the whole thing is because the whole album is essentially like excerpts from my journal over the years. You know what I mean? So it's very much like, oh, okay, like, and there are some things that are in my journals that are lyrics in the album, or even I'm like, when I was writing some of the songs, I was like, oh, I kind of want to go, like, I remember when I felt like that, I want to go back and read my journal entries from then. So that was very much kind of a point of like, kind of alluding to the fact that that's kind of where a lot of it came from.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I have the guy that's been doing all my like album covers and all that for years. Brian has just absolutely killed it with all this stuff, and he's every time I think that we're like, I'm like, yeah, we got it, and then he just like one-ups it, and it's awesome just to be like, this is my vision, and he just like runs with it and creates something really cool to make it all feel like it's kind of packaged together.
100%.
But other than that, I don't know. I'm just excited for people to hear it. I actually don't like this in between part where it's like I've written it and it's out waiting, no one's listening.
Yeah, we're in like no man's land.
Yeah,
like okay,
yeah,
we're almost there.
I want you guys to hear it.
Well, it's October 3rd, so we are officially like 14 days from your album coming out.
What do I do?
So excited.
What do I do for 14 days?
Well, you're going to play a kick-ass show in Denver tonight.
That's true.
And then you have another show tomorrow in San Francisco.
And then next week I'm going to Indy. So
That's what we do.
I got stuff to do.
That's what we do.
But I'm going to be thinking about the album the whole time. So
it's so exciting. Thanks for coming on the chat about the album. So exciting. Congratulations. Yes. And
thanks. That was the most serious hour I've had. Normally, you know me, I'm like,
we're here for it. No, but we've turned a new page.
Was,
everyone knows the Gremlin.
Everyone knows, like,
I remember
that I'm just going to revert straight back to that.
Even if I cut this out, or I'm going to leave it in because I'm still going to clip it. I remember my first Lost Lands that I played. I felt so uncomfortable being around like everybody, and then I wanted to go. I wanted to go into the crowd. And I wanted to do stuff, and you were like, "Leave everybody. We're going." And I remember you just taking me from stage to stage to stage to stage. And then we'd go in, people would recognize you, or people would see me, and then we'd like have a ball, and then we'd leave, and then we'd go to the next stage. And that's just like who you are.
Yeah.
And I think that's why this is just so exciting, because people aren't going to forget who you are. It's just this like it's layer of an onion. Just peeled back a little bit.
And an onion.
You're not going anywhere. So you're going to have all these different eras in your project. And it's like,
well,
this is so exciting.
It's also important too, because I was like, I don't want people to think that as I'm putting this out, like the way I am is just like, I didn't want people to think like, okay, that was just like a thing. And now she's like this and now she's pushing this. I'm not pushing. I'm just showing you who I am. And like, I can be both deep and absolutely fucking chaotic, you know, like literally on the way here I was in the car with Devin and TJ, and I was like and they were like, you need to like calm down. I'm so excited when I come to Denver because like also like a lot of my friends are here and I just like love it here. So I get here and I'm like, and they're like, you need to just like,
tonight's gonna be so fun. It's so fun though. It's the best time. Like, it is. Denver's special. Denver.
Yeah, now I love it because now I'm getting in trouble for saying, like, I've always been like Denver, and then
you have always been like Denver.
And then recently I've written like on my stories like Denver with an ER, and everyone's like, you spelled it wrong, and I was like,
so funny.
You're right.
Don Dahl stole it from you.
I know. I'm
completely honest. He really just took it right out of your mouth.
I'll allow it.
A fellow Aussie, right? He's from Australia too.
Yeah.
God,
I mean, you all say it like that. So
you guys produce the best artists.
Honestly, there's crazy. No, even like some of the ones that haven't necessarily like blown up here yet, but they're just like, some of them I'm like, how the fuck, like, what possessed you?
Tunnel vision.
How did you? Yeah,
the intuition that doesn't get like fucked with.
Yeah,
and it's very powerful.
And then when I see them here, and they're like deer in the headlights. They're like, holy shit, this is intense. I'm like, welcome to
the dark side. You are here, and now we go play a million shows.
Yeah, and then you're just like, holy shit,
the gates open.
Yeah. Because in Australia, there's like, I don't know, 8 cities you can play in.
Chinese Laundry. That's iconic. Like, that's it. That's it.
There's like so little amount of cities, whereas here it's like you could do like 4 in a weekend. Yeah. And like, okay,
bing, 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 bing.
Yeah.
Yep. That's it. You're going to kill it. I'm excited to see you play tonight.
I'm excited.
I love the pants.
Thanks.
We got the album coming out, and
we're on the up, you know?
We're on the up.
We're on the up. Everything is turning out Millhouse, you know?
We love it. Thank you, SIPPY, for coming on. Thanks, guys, for listening today. Bye, guys.
Bye.